What's up guys, I'm Chris Lado. Welcome to the channel. I was a F-16 pilot for 18 years and now I'm researching unexplained aerial phenomena because it's so interesting. So busy video, I'm gonna go through the Russian Top Gun. So my last video was fake footage. Roger Moore, you lied to me, Roger Moore. It's probably not his fault actually. But I'll be more discerning in the future, and I learned something from debunkers now is go for the jugular and just don't release. And I think right now I'll show you Chris Mellon agrees that is the Nimitz case. We'll review the reaction from Chris Mellon. He had an updated reaction on 11 July about the UAP report, going a little bit on UAP theory. I agree with UAP theory. I'll go through a little bit on the Nimitz Chad UnderWood case and then show you what I found from 69 years ago. The Air Force's response has not changed so much in that time, unfortunately. As always, please like and subscribe if you like the content. I try and read all of your comments and appreciate all the support. Let's get to the video. So from my last video, yeah, it was too good to be true. The footage was too good to be true. Of course, here it is, the original F-15 footage. I should have known. I think we even had the same exact seat in the F-16. But I've never seen this backside actually because it's canted 30 degrees in the Viper. So from behind, we never see that. And this thing threw me off. Normally these are pitot tubes. Okay, so the seat has to know how fast it's going through the air. And then it can determine its different settings, right? It has different phases for speeds. You know, if you're low and slow, it pops the main chute immediately. If you're low and fast, it pulls out a little drogue chute. So the seat has to know, but I thought it would be closed. So I assumed this was some other system. Anyway, long story short, I deleted the video and I'll be more discerning in the future. Next up is this UAP report and UAP issue from Christopher Mellon. This interesting read, okay? It doesn't take 11 minutes to read. I'll just go through basically the main points here. He was the original person who was basically pushed to declassify all these things. Harry Reid was the senator who initially started the program for ATIP, and then Chris Mellon has really been pushing to make all this stuff happen. So we kind of, I think most of this is due to his work, or a lot of it's due to his work. So thanks to Chris Mellon. He says, as the person who lobbied Congress to request the recently released UAP report, I've been the most part thrilled about the results. It's validated the UAP threat, forced myriad stovepipe agencies to share information, and has garnered the attention of policymakers and the public. Furthermore, it did all this without a penny of appropriation funding. What has been disappointing, however, is much of the subsequent coverage and discussion of the issue. So he's disappointed. First off, what did they find? No evidence that UAPs are secret US aircraft. It carefully states some UAPs may be Russian or Chinese, but it basically says that it's not Russia or Chinese. So he says, so what was the media reaction? Not aliens. I mean, the US, in order to say it actually is aliens, would have to have undeniable proof, which is physical evidence, actual aliens there that you could go and visit and talk to, until that happens. So Chris Mellon's upset that the media is saying basically it is not aliens, but the question is then what is it? Because the report says it wasn't anything else. That's his main point. Basically what Chris Mellon recommends in his paper here, to move beyond speculation and generalization toward a meaningful dialogue, I suggest greater consideration of specific cases. Doing so forces us to confront the reality of the phenomenon, which often seems unappreciated by those offering opinions on the issue. So let's briefly review a single well-documented case, the Nimitz incident of November 14, 2004. I think this is the right way, and I'll do what Chris Mellon suggests, is focus on this Nimitz. So that'll be my next deep dive that I'm focusing on right now. Very interesting. And I think this actually, if you look at the Omaha event, if the sphere does go into the water, that's definitely it's not dynamic moving, but it's something that we don't have that capability yet. Tic Tac, for instance, let's focus on that, because the Nimitz, hard to debunk that stuff, right? Multiple people, multiple sensors, it's on film, so excellent. So let's focus on that. I think go for the jugular, hold on, and then just, that should be what we focus on, is the Nimitz case. It's just, there's so much data, there's so many corroborating sources. Chris Mellon puts forward that the UAPtheory.com, their main argument is arguably correct. And I agree actually. And what they say is the only thing we're going to put into the theory are the high accelerations of these material objects and require them to be compatible with the laws of motion. So this is one thing I've also noticed, is that, our theories are all fine and dandy, right? Our mathematical representations of the world, until they don't work, right? And that's what's so good about war. That's actually kind of what drew me to war, and fighting is there's a final solution. Okay, you can say that you believe in this God and your God's better than my God, and we're going to fight, and you can pray to your God, right? But if my bullet goes through your brain, all of a sudden that kind of invalidates your hypothesis, doesn't it? Our hypothesis here for UAPs is that now all they're saying is let's review what we're seeing and change our model to the real world. And I see this as not happening. One example you can see in modern physics is dark energy. Okay, they're obviously seeing 85% of the universe is not there, or we can't see it, right? So we're observing something that 85% incorrect with our current understanding of the universe, our model, right? And what do we say? There must be something else there. There must be 85% more matter there as dark energy. This is how our science is approaching it. When really, that is the observation, and we should be changing our model to match our observations of the universe. But that's not what we're doing. So I agree with UAP theory here, is what they're saying is, okay, let's say that the accelerations are correct, and now what could be possible with our current understanding of physics? Okay, that's all they're doing, is instead of forcing our model onto the universe, or observable universe, let's observe, and now we can change our model. And another point, this is why SpaceX is kicking everyone's ass in the space industry, right? Because all the super nerds at NASA, they devote all their energy, right? Everything's on paper. They have all these complicated, super complicated theories. They build this super complicated system. It has to work one time, and guess what? Usually it doesn't, okay? Because one of those assumptions, along your millions of assumptions that you have to make to get to the spaceship, are incorrect or off or wrong, and all of a sudden it doesn't work, right? So what is SpaceX doing? They're building the models, launching them, and then seeing what happens. They blow up. So they're going the opposite direction, okay? Which is, I think, what we've always done as humans is through modeling. We're able to test, experiment, model, and then create models, and then create our mental model through math of what we're observing. But what we've gotten to now, and I believe that why we've gotten there with dark energy, is it's just so far away. We haven't figured out how to change. We don't have the tools, the physical tools to actually create the data or collect the data to make these new models, because the scale is just so large. So what's the main argument here? Let's go through. Basically, they're saying that it's just along geodesics. Okay, there's indeed one way the laws of physics will allow an object to move and even get faster without feeling any accelerations. This happens if you move along a geodesic of space-time. Geodesics, simply put, are straight lines on a curved surface and are thus different depending on the shape of the surface, okay? So basically, this is geodesics, and this is our current understanding of space-time. And it seems to make sense to me, right? The heavier an object is, so like this planet, it will physically curve, like on a blanket, it will curve space-time, okay? So you're really not accelerating when you're falling under gravity. You're not really accelerating, you're just following a straight line in space-time. So if you put a little, you know those, remember charity organizations, and you put the money down the little funnel? That is basically like how geodesics work and how we currently understand gravity and space-time. So if you go fast enough, if you send a little nickel fast enough around the filter now, it's never going to fall into the earth. It's never going to fall into the charity bin because it's going fast enough. And on Earth now there is frictions, right? There's frictions when you go around that little funnel. It's going to slow down, and over time it will fall in. But in space there is no friction, and so that's how things are able to maintain orbit. Okay, that's one way to think about it. So the UAP theory, and I do agree with this, is actually all they're doing is there's a device, a propulsion system that is able to create its own little space-time warp. It's able to warp those geodesics, okay? And now it just says, hey, the geodesic line is straight that way, and all of a sudden, boom, the object accelerates. Or it's able to hold straight. Basically, geodesic line is like this. I'm just gonna sit straight, okay? I can hover, okay? So it can control its own geodesic lines. It can avert the Earth's geodesic line and make its own little geodesic lines. This is what they're saying, how the UAP theory would work. And in that case, it's not actually going through the air, right? So it's not going to cause any sonic booms. And this is the actual UAP theory. So that's what Chris Mellon proposes. I agree. As derived above, UAPs create distortions in space-time to create geodesics along which they move free of accelerations. And honestly, this makes sense to me, and this would be in line with Bob Lazar's whole postulation that it creates gravity waves, etc. So some method to bend space-time to straighten those geodesics, if you will. Okay, next is the Nimitz I've been watching with Chad Underwood. So I've been thinking, where are the WIZOs? Where are the weapon systems officers in this? So far, from what I'd seen, it's all been pilots, okay? I'm definitely late to the game. I just started believing this, essentially, or even thinking it's possible 2 months ago in May. So I was curious, where are the weapon systems officers? Because there's different weapon systems, okay? The cultures of all the militaries are actually surprisingly different. You get, any civilian would be very surprised if I brought you into different services. The Air Force is very different, has its own kind of modular culture from the Navy, definitely from the Army. Army all around the world is different, okay? Everybody, we all make fun of the Army, all worlds over. Every nation has the Army, and they have a certain way of thinking and, and operating. Air Forces are also the same. We seem to be more freewheeling, more liberal, more science-oriented. So I was wondering, where are the weapon system operators? The WIZOs, they, especially in a two-seat aircraft, okay? I come from the F-16, single seat, baby, which has its advantages and definite disadvantages. Advantages is it's one person to do all of the operations in the weapon system, okay? So as the single seat pilot, I'm flying the plane, I'm also operating the radar at the same time, and I'm operating the FLIR at the same time. The targeting pod is what we call it. I'm talking the radio, so it's one person to do all of these things, which means it's one point of failure, okay? So if I make a mistake in any of those little tasks, it's going to get messed up, right? The good point is there's no communication flow. So I make a decision in my brain, I can execute on it right away. So if you look, our air-to-air fighters are going to be primarily single seat. It's more mental, quick reactions, quick engagements. Everything happens very fast. If you go to an air-to-ground mission now, I would actually like a WIZO. You know, I'm sure most F-16 pilots would punch me for that. But I would like a WIZO in the back. You know, I want to split up those operations. If it's a serious operation, man, I want somebody else there helping me, able to share tasks. But the problem is now you do have this, there's a communication problem, okay? And you're splitting your brains, right? Now we have two brains. I have twice as many people to deal with, twice as many people to make mistakes. But interesting, in the Navy, the way the Navy works, or when you have a weapon system officer, these guys are experts, man. They know way more than I know about using a targeting pod, just because that is their primary goal. You know, they're not worried about instrument procedures or, you know, worrying about radio calls or maintaining all of their emergency procedural training. You know, they're just focused on knowing that targeting pod, knowing that radar system very accurately. So I was very happy to find Lieutenant Commander Chad Underwood's interview, and I'll be posting that later. But I want to show right now, okay, that I think we have so many sensors looking at it. So just in this one instance where Chad Underwood, he launches, okay, Dave Fravor comes back, lands, says, hey man, Chad, I saw something, it was weird in the air, go check it out. Because Fravor did not have a targeting pod. Most likely he was on like a basic flying maneuver. You know, if we're doing normal air-to-air dogfighting, we're not going to use our targeting pods on there. So your targeting pods are kind of limited assets. You're going to put that on the jets that are doing specifically the air-to-ground training. Fravor lands, says, Chad Underwood, go get video of this. So what that means is Underwood, just in order to find this thing, okay, he had to, the ship had to see it. So the ship had to see it with a curtain level radar, a different radar from the fighter radar. Fighter radars are in a different band than the ship radars, okay? So the ship radar had to see it, and then the fighter radar, he had to see it as well. So Underwood says he got hits on his radar, so that means it was also in the band of a smaller fighter radar. And now they see it with the FLIR, okay? So that's TV mode. On the FLIR, you have TV mode and you have infrared. So that is 4 separate frequencies of your electromagnetic spectrum. I mean, meaning this thing is there. That effectively rules out so many things, just the fact that it's corroborating data, okay? And then a final thing I'll mention on this Nimitz case before the deep dive is we do have dynamic advanced maneuvering on film, okay? So I was trying to think, gimbal, it's moving, right? It it should not be able to do that. The way it's flying, you know, the gimbal, the way it is actually flying should not be able to do that, but it's not advanced dynamic maneuvering. It's not doing something totally impossible, okay? So it could be levitating there using a fan somehow, but this, okay, when we look at the Nimitz engagement, this FLIR, this maneuver here is physically impossible by everything we know. And I know we've seen debunkers, and I'll debunk the debunking right now. Is this thing. Okay, so this is a targeting pod. This is a system. Remember, it's pointing exactly. It gives exact angle. That is what the targeting pod does. It gives very, very, very accurate angle information to a target. So we can get accurate within a meter GPS coordinates from several miles away. Okay, so that means from far away, several miles, you can't see me. I can get coordinates at your feet, and drop a 2,000-pound bomb right next to you within that meter. Just think about that, okay? In order to do that, in order to be able to do that, you have to have extremely, extremely accurate pointing information, extremely accurate. The way you get that accurate ranging data is through laser. Remember, laser ranging is also very accurate. So if I combine very, very accurate angle pointing with very accurate range pointing now, I can put a 2,000-pound bomb at your feet. Okay, you know, I've never done that. I've actually never killed anyone in combat. I'm lucky to say that, I think. But I just want to highlight that this is evidence, video evidence of amazing maneuvers that we cannot explain. And the way I can debunk the debunkers right now is this. It's very accurate at angling, and when this thing makes this maneuver, watch this. I want you to show this angle. So first we're 7 left. Okay, that means it's aiming 7 degrees left to the nose, basically right out in front of the aircraft. And let me just show you here, as it goes left, this number here, 7 degrees left, okay, as this object shoots off the screen, does not change. It actually goes a little bit to the left more, to 8. So let's just watch this quickly. Okay, so if this thing zooms off, I want you to look at the top, 8 left. It's not changing. Get it? This number does not change, meaning the pod is still aiming the same direction. It's still aiming. The object moved. Make sense? I can tell you right there, debunk the debunkers immediately. This thing does not change. If you look here, it goes from 7 left to 8 left. It actually went 1 degree further to the left, as you see through the whole video, and now the object actually goes. So I can tell you right now that this is valid proof of dynamic maneuvering that we can't understand. And I'll go through it more in the deep dive on the Nimitz, which I'm currently working on. All right, last thing I want to show you guys actually kind of disheartened me as I went back and looked. Okay, this is from 69 years ago. Look at this video I found 69 years ago, the Air Force's response. I got this from U.S. National Archives. Major General John Samford's statement on flying saucers from the Pentagon, Washington, D.C., 1952. So 69 years ago. How far have we come in 69 years? Let's see here. Jennifer Samford. You know, not much has changed, everybody. We keep thinking so much has changed. I mean, it's still on microphones. Uniform's a little different. I bet this would be bluer in real life now. You know, it was probably Army brown there when we were part of the Army Air Corps.
I'm here to discuss the so-called flying saucers. The Air Force interest in this problem has been due to our feeling of an obligation to identify and analyze to the best of our ability anything in the air that may have the possibility of threat or menace to the United States.
On their own. They did it on their own.
In pursuit of this obligation, since 1947, we have received and analyzed between 1 and 2,000 reports.
1 in 2,000.
That have come to us from all kinds of sources. Of this great mass of reports, we have been able adequately to explain the great bulk of them, explain them to our own satisfaction. We've been able to explain them as hoaxes, as erroneously identified friendly aircraft, as meteorological or electronic phenomena, or as light aberrations.
Yeah, I love this. It's like this pause waiting.
However, there have been a certain percentage of this volume of reports that have been made by credible observers of relatively incredible things. It is this group of observations that we now are attempting to resolve. Our basic difficulty in dealing with these is that there is no measurement of them that makes it possible for us to put them in any pattern that would be profitable for a deliberate, custom sort of analysis to take the next step. We have, as of date, come to only one firm conclusion with respect to this remaining percentage, and that is that it does not contain any pattern of purpose or of consistency that we can relate with to any conceivable threat to the United States. Is that?
Was that good enough? They're working their hardest. 69 years, we may be able to work out something.
We can say that the recent sightings are in no way connected with any secret development by any department of the United States.
Look how he sits back there. You see that? I mean, it's like...
Of the United States.
Watch this. Watch his body. So the same thing. They've been saying the same thing for 69 years. Also, this is from the Air Force. If you look again, that was from the Air Force as well, Major Samford. Incidentally, Chris Mellon names here the Air Force. Other sightings were not included because of excessive classification, bureaucratic resistance, e.g. the USAF, or lack of resources. I will say I just left the Air Force and the bureaucratic process are just a total wreck. USAF was also named in the setting up for the UAP report, didn't start any of its UAP task force until November 2020, so USAF has been very late. In part, it is disheartening looking back at this old footage. I mean, that is 69 years ago, and they effectively said they haven't made any gains. You know, I watched through the whole Getty images of the 1952 for the sightings over Washington, D.C. It was effectively the same. They had some bleeps on the radar, some hits on the radar. They launched aircraft. The aircraft went there and saw there's yellow, red, orange light. That's it. This is basically the same thing that we have happening today in 2021, you know, 69 years ago. So I don't know, it shows, I think we do need to focus on to the key points, and I'm gonna focus on Nimitz. That's it for today, guys. I will be on UFO podcast tonight, 6 to 8 p.m., Tuesday, 20 July. So be on there, it'll be live stream, so ask any questions you like. Please like and subscribe as always. I'll try and get more content like this out as well. Have a great day. Peace.